Hi, I'm RC Jim. This is now the third and the last of our series of videos on fail-safe management for RC planes. Previously, we have had videos where we talked about what a failure mode is, what could go wrong. We had a look at a variety of different ones. We looked at mechanical, structural ones. The last video we looked at electronic ones. In this last video we finish off on the electronic ones, looking at the loss of signal to the plane. And then we have a look at some of the personal or pilot error type issues that we can avoid. So that's what we'll do with this one. Following this series, we have another video that we're going to do, haven't done it yet, but it'll be coming up very soon, on fail-safe settings for receivers and ESCs. So we'll actually be taking you to various transmitters and ESCs and showing you how to set the fail-safe settings in those things and what they do. So all of that is coming up. So sit back and enjoy, and I trust that you'll benefit from what you're about to hear. Okay, next failure mode is loss of signal to the plane. So the signal is not getting through to the plane. So it might be that the plane's too far away, might be the antenna's pointed straight at the transmitter. We talked about that. Maybe the battery is down way low on the transmitter and it's not putting enough power. Maybe there's a poor connection on the transmitter battery and it's actually quit completely. Could be a problem as far as the receiver, but I guess we're saying with this failure mode, we're talking about the signal not being present. Okay, so it'd be something related to the transmitter and all of that. Typically, one of the transmitters, such as what we use in radio-controlled planes, it's good for over 1 kilometer perhaps even a mile. So that's quite a ways. But basically, stay reasonably close. I mean, you want to be able to see what's going on with your plane anyway. You get too far away and it gets too hard to see how it's oriented and what it's doing. So keep it just, within gliding distance of the field, basically, and you'll do well. Be careful around high-tension power lines, things that could cause interference, mobile phone towers or whatever else, I'm not sure what the risks are with those things, but I know at our club there's high-tension power lines at a distance away, but nonetheless within sight. And the various talk among club members is most of their radio problems happen over on that end of the field and over closer to those. So be careful about that with regard to interference. Okay, we've already mentioned that you don't want antennas pointed straight at each other. You want them basically perpendicular to whatever is coming at it. And so as you think about your transmitter, some transmitters have one antenna, some have two. And ideally you want to have two. It'll have a vertical one and it'll have a horizontal one. That vertical one, like on the Spectrum NX, such as my main radio, it can bend up. And as you think about it, as you're holding your radio, why do you want to hold it such that the antenna is pointed straight out at your airplane? That's ridiculous. If the antenna bends, bend it up to where it's going to be vertical, or even a little bit past vertical to where it's perpendicular to a line of sight to the airplane. Ones that only have a single antenna, that is really critical. With a dual antenna, you'll probably get away with it because that other one is horizontal, and as long as you're facing towards the airplane, you always get a good signal with that one. But nonetheless, you got two antennas, so orient it such that that antenna is more or less perpendicular to the line of sight to the airplane. And of course, I talk about facing towards the airplane, as you fly. That is not just simply something that you naturally do, but it's also something that purposefully you ought to do to keep that horizontal antenna such that it's going to be effective with the airplane. And then as we think about what's happening with the receiver, I mentioned I got a video that's going to be following this one on that. But make sure you go through that you understand what those fail-safe provisions are for the receiver. You'll program it through the transmitter, but it's going to be kept in the receiver, and the receiver is going to be what does the action. And you want to make sure that you get those things set up properly. Okay, now let's consider some aerodynamic failure modes. One particular problem might be that the plane is underpowered. You got this great big plane, you got a little tiny motor in there. Might be fine for keeping the thing in the air, but to get it off the ground and clear obstacles and whatever else, that might be an issue. And also in terms of recovering from something that happens up in the air might be a problem. So try to have a decent sort of thrust to weight ratio. For most sport planes, it's recommended that the thrust be equal to the weight of the plane. My Great Plains Trainer 40 isn't up to that level, largely because I picked a prop that has too low of a KV rating, and I can't get a big enough prop on it to get the full thrust out of the motor. But anyway, I just have to have a nice long run up with it, and it's probably similar in performance to a real-life airplane. Most real-life airplanes, you can't hang on the prop and just sit there, you know. So that one, it'll do loops and all of that fine, but if you run it straight up, it's going to come back down, you know. So anyway, be aware of your situation in terms of thrust. If you've got a 3D plane, you're going to have way more than a 1-to-1 ratio between thrust and the weight. It might be double or whatever. But nonetheless, be aware of what your situation is and fly accordingly. But do try to have something like that 1-to-1 ratio, or pretty close to it. Okay, another aerodynamic failure mode is improper balance. You know, typically a plane is going to be balanced between 1/4 of the way back of the wing and 1/3 of the way back on the wing. But it is going to be based on the whole wing. And so as you have a rather odd-shaped wing, or especially if you've got a swept back wing, you can't just simply base that on what the wing is doing right where it attaches to the fuselage. See our video on center of gravity location. And it will show you how that you can take the dimension here and add it there and there, and take the dimension here, add it there and there. And I have a thing where you can run strings across, and it'll work out the center of the area of the wing. It'll be one particular spot on the wing where the center of the area is, and at that point you then can work back 25% to 33%, and in that range someplace you'll find a sweet spot where you want to be. Naturally, planes will come with a recommendation. If they have a recommendation, start with that. You know, that makes sense. But on some, such as my E-flite P51, I think the recommendation is wrong. So I've got it farther back on that one than what is recommended. Yeah, you can work that out along the way. And of course, well, that's a whole separate issue as far as working it out. But if you see that your trim on the elevator is requiring either up or down elevator, that's basically telling you that it's off. And there'll be other factors as well that you can consider. With regard to getting that center of gravity there, that's going to involve either moving the battery forward and back, or putting some ballast weights on one end or the other, and doing various things to get that center of gravity where it needs to be. From side to side, you can, pick up your plane and see, does it tend to balance side to side? And, if it's reasonably okay, it's okay. You can certainly adjust trim on ailerons to pick that. But if, for example, you had a camera mounted out on one wing or something like that, you're probably going to need to balance it with something on the other wing, or else you're going to have problems. One thing that I've always wondered about is on a glow fuel plane where you've got a fuel tank in here. Quite often the fuel tank is forward of the center of gravity location. And that means when the fuel tank is full, you got a nose heavy plane, and when the fuel tank is empty, you probably got a tail heavy plane. Now, chances are it's not going to affect it enough to really cause any flight problems, especially if you've got your center of gravity in the medium sort of position where it can go one way or the other. And given that it's in this sort of location, it's only an inch or so off of the center of gravity, a couple inches maybe. But ideally, what you'd like to do if you're building a plane that's a glow fuel plane, has a fuel tank, you want that fuel tank to be located right on the middle of the fuel tank, right on the line where you got the fore-aft center of gravity located. And that way it's not going to affect you at all as the fuel level goes up or down. Next, as we think about the aerodynamic failure modes, is high wing loading. Now, when you got a rather heavy plane, and this, even though it's foam, it's still, pretty hefty. Depending on the size of the wings, you might have some pretty high wing loading. Now, what that's going to do, it's going to give the plane different characteristics. As you compare this with, say, my Yak profile plane, a foam plane that weighs next to nothing, that Yak, you can, turn on a dime. It can, do anything you want, all the 3D maneuvers and all of that type of thing. It's got, such a low wing loading. I mean, its wings are basically as big as this, and it doesn't weigh 1/10 of what this thing weighs. So you're going to have to fly a plane like this a lot different than the one with a light wing loading. And in particular, one of the things that you need to watch out for is a high-speed stall. If you had a lot of elevator movement on this, and you come in for a real fast sort of dive and, trying to show off, and you yank that stick back, potentially you could get that plane to turn in such a way that the air can't flow around that wing anymore, and the thing stalls even though it's going very fast. That's the type of thing that can happen with this. It'll never happen with that Yak, So just some things that you need to be thinking about as you fly. Again, just as you think about the strength of the wing, also think about the aerodynamic sort of things that happen. So in terms of safety, keeping those things in mind, but then as you're building planes, build them light. A light plane is going to fly a lot better than a heavy plane, other things being equal. Okay, next on my list is improper trim settings. It's always a bit of a challenge when you first maiden a plane. It gets its first flight up there, and you're not quite sure what to expect in terms of, is the thing going to fly straight with neutral controls, or do you need to add in one direction or the other, up or down, whatever it might be. And so as soon as possible, you want to get those controls sorted out and get that plane to where it flies nice and straight and level. It'll make it a lot easier and you're less likely to get into trouble. Okay, there's probably some other aerodynamic ones, but those are the ones that main ones that I'm thinking of. So that brings us up to, well, where the rubber meets the road, and that is guys like you and me, the pilot. Personal type failure modes. So you got pilot error. You ever have a brain glitch? You turn right instead of left, whatever it might be, and, makes no sense whatsoever. You know better and all the rest, but just something up there in the brain didn't click right. Well, that can happen when you're flying a plane. And of course, as far as avoiding that, first of all, have yourself in a good mental state. So as you're there at the club, interact positively with other club members and have some good vibes going and things like that. That's going to help a lot. But also, when you're up in the air, work on doing stuff that you're confident with, giving yourself plenty of safety margins with that. And then when you decide to stretch yourself a bit and go for something that's more difficult, do it little by little. Gradually get there. Don't throw yourself into some really unusual sort of thing. Those things will help you as far as your mental state. Pilot error could be improper technique. So you just tend to do things in a certain way, and that certain way can lead to problems. So, for example, if your tendency is when you take off just to yank the elevator back and you know, shoot up in the air. With a little yak and some other things, you can do fine, but you try to do it with a big heavy plane, and most likely you're going to stall one of the wings, and you know, it's not going to be going up. So having that technique of gradually increasing the throttle as you have your run up on takeoff, gradually getting up speed. Of course, with a tail dragger, well, I guess with all of the planes, I start out with a lot of up elevator when it's first start rolling, especially on the grass. Gradually releasing that, but gradually building up speed. As it gets ready to go, you're basically keeping it on the ground for a little while and then just gradually taking off. And if that is your general technique for taking off, it's going to help you as far as if you get some planes that are more difficult to handle. There can be other things as well, like let's say you're getting ready to do a roll, especially with a new plane that you're not familiar with. As you go into the roll, aim up first. Take it up about a good 20-degree angle or so, 30 degrees even, and do your roll. And gives you plenty of room for that thing to barrel roll and go around and come back down at level again, as compared to starting out level. So there'll be a lot of things like that that you can learn, and so make sure that you've learned right. My boys and I, when we started out 25 years ago, we knew nothing about technique, and nobody was there to teach us how to do it, and we made a lot of mistakes and had a lot of crashes. So you can avoid that by proper learning. Go to a club, get some training from people that are ahead of you, and that will help you a lot. Okay, entering into a situation that requires greater skill level than when you're presently at. Let's say you're going to try to do a knife edge, and you start off, you see, you know, one of your mates at the club do it, and he's 12 feet off the ground, and you think, oh yeah, I can do that, you know, so you throw that plane over, and who knows where it's going to go. No, you know, work on things that at your skill level. And I might say that this is one place where the flight simulator can be helpful, you know, as you think about 3D type moves and stuff like that. Is even though the flight simulator, real flight or other things like that, even though it's not really real flight, you know, it's got some differences. In terms of the type of control movements that you need to do, they will be the same sort of control movements. And so if you practice those 3D moves on the flight simulator and crash it a dozen times, it'll be a lot better than crashing your real plane. Okay, distraction or stress can be contributors. I've got one fellow in the club that is an excellent flyer, one of the best that I know. Well, for one thing, he doesn't want me taking videos of him. And for the other thing, he said it makes him nervous when other people are right there, right behind him when he's controlling the plane, you know, watching him and whatever. It makes him feel nervous. And, you know, so we avoid that. We respect that. That's okay. You know, if you're feeling stressed and whatever, it's not good. So, you know, if you've got some issues in terms of what other people are doing that is helping to contribute to the stress, talk to them honestly about it. It's okay. You know, we don't want to do things that are going to stress other people out. And as far as your own situation goes, the more you fly and the more experience that you get, the less stress that you're going to have and the less nerves, and that will help you a lot. Okay, not performing remedial steps as a problem becomes apparent. Today I was flying, had the Ranger up there, and I'm doing all kinds of stuff with it, flying inverted and all kinds of things. But anyway, as I'm flying along, I see something dark fall off the plane, drop to the ground. I thought, oh no. So immediately I did a landing. You know, just cut the power straight away, brought it around to the field, and just as quick as possible I got it on the ground. Examining the plane, everything was fine, and looking at all of the clumps of grass that were stuck to various parts of the plane from mowing the grass and, you know, everything being damp, you know, I worked out that what I'd seen was a big clump of grass that had stuck to the plane and finally fell off, you know. But something like that happens, check it out, you know. Don't just sort of say, well, I'll check that out after the flight or whatever. You know, if something potentially is a problem, have a look at it right away and take care of it right away. As you think about some of those problems that become apparent, what happens if it appears that you're losing control, that the plane's just going on its merry way and it's not responding to your controls? Well, you have to think about the various fail-safe things that might be happening. Think about the battery fail-safe. If you've got that in your transmitter, hit the switch or pull the throttle down, do whatever it takes to reset it, see if that restores control or not. If you're not facing the plane, face the plane. If the antenna isn't perpendicular, either raise the thing up or do something to get that antenna perpendicular to the line of sight of the plane. If the thing has gone out of control and it's headed for the ground and it's not responding what you want to do, the least you can do is cut back the throttle and probably pull back on the elevator just in case the thing decides that it's going to, start responding. But do whatever you can to minimize the airspeed that it's going to hit the ground at. No sense leaving the throttle, going full blast as it's headed for the ground. And with regard to landing, I recall when I was doing training for flying the full-size aircraft, that one of the things that they had us do was to simulate an engine failure on takeoff. And so we're just nicely up in the air, sort of maybe a little bit beyond the edge of the field, and the instructor pulls back the throttle, says engine failure. He's already talked to the tower and told them what he's going to do, so they've made sure that there's no traffic coming and all of that type of thing. But you do an about face, and you have enough altitude. But anyway, you do an about face, turn it around, and you land on the runway in the wrong direction. Okay? There's no way you're going to get around to land it in the correct direction. You just want to get that plane on the ground in a safe place. And if it's going a little bit faster, that's okay. Well, same sort of thing if you have something that happens with your plane and it needs to land, just land it however you can on the field, whatever direction you can. Call out to the other guys to let them know what's happening. Dead stick landing right to left, whatever it might be, and get that plane on the ground. Okay, there's also the potential that the failure might be related to a pilot who isn't the one flying the plane. So you're up there flying, and some other guy is headed right at you. Well, he shouldn't be doing that. He should be watching out for you, and you should be watching out for him and all that type of thing. But it's kind of like sailing. It's always wrong to crash into the other guy. Even if the other guy is doing something wrong, even if he's in the wrong place, going the wrong way around the circuit, whatever it might be, he might be wrong, but you do your best to avoid crashing into him. So always drive defensively. And of course, if you have a continual problem with somebody doing things that are unsafe, talk to your club management about that. Well, that's what I've come up with thus far, and I trust that has been helpful. If you have some additional things that you think we ought to be thinking of to avoid crashing, please write it in the description in the comment section below. We'll all learn from that and share it with others, and that'd be very helpful. Now, on our next video on fail-safe management, what I'm going to be doing is going to be looking at the various electronic components and the various fail-safe provisions that you can program both through your receiver or your transmitter into the receiver, programming the ESC, the various things that you can do to help protect you from failure electronically with your programming. So make sure you've subscribed if you haven't done so already, and have a look at these other videos, and very soon, and maybe already depending on when you're watching this, very soon we'll have this other video on programming to provide fail-safe. Well, I'm RC Jim. You have a great day and happy flying.